my name is Caden, and this is my dad, Stavian.
Hey.
And who are you?
My God.
My name is.
Go ahead,
And
babe.
this,
Go ahead, Chloe.
Hey, my name is Chloe.
Yeah.
And who am I?
Mommy.
That's right.
Lisa.
Mommy Tahisha?
Yeah.
Awesome.
so they're gonna be talking about their life.
All right. Hi, I'm Stavian, and this is my beautiful wife, Tahisha. And today we just kind of wanted to talk with you guys and share our journey, share our story, our faith in action. And we'll tell a little bit about ourselves and some of the things we've been through in our story. Everybody always wants to hear the story. And today we want to kind of share that with you. We want to come to you in our own way. And so without further ado, here's my beautiful wife, Tahisha.
The beautiful wife. So I am Tahisha Harrison. I was born the daughter of John and Sandra Covington, August the 22nd, 1974. I think when I was born, my parents knew how special I was.
Oh yeah, you special.
Straight out of the womb, I was diagnosed with a chronic illness. Doctors today, they're like, they can't even believe that I'm still here, because with this illness, only 10% of people survive. I was yellow jaundice, and on top of that, I had problems with my liver, bile ducts, and all that. So I'm still here, and I'm that special child. And we have 2 kids together. So I'm a mom, Caden and Chloe.
Yay.
And I'm the middle child. I beat to my own drum.
You got that right. Let me tell you.
Beat to my own drum always. And I kind of try to inspire myself. So back in 2014, I lost my mom. Going into 2015, while everyone was making New Year's resolutions, I was praying. Because losing my mom was a challenge for me, and I basically surrendered to God. I basically surrendered to God and asked him, I'm here. I'm not sure what my destiny is, but I'm surrendering to you. Not knowing that when I surrendered to God, 10 months later, I was going to be faced with breast cancer. In July of 2015, Stavian and we were down in Atlanta visiting my sister. We were getting ready to go to his best friend Lakey's 45th birthday party.
I don't know if he was that old, but it was a birthday party. It
But
was a
yeah,
bash.
I was in the I was taking a shower, and as I showered, I ran across a lump on my breast. I got out of the shower, I told Stavian, and at first I wasn't going to tell him, because I was like, I'm not even going to worry about this. We getting ready to go have fun. But just to make sure I was not tripping, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't tripping. I said, okay, Stavian, I think I feel a lump on my breast. He was like, yep, you're right. So Monday when we got back to town, I called my doctor to schedule a mammogram. And they actually told me, well, you can't just go and you can't call us and schedule a mammogram, because now you found something. You have to go to your primary physician, and then they have to refer you. So I called my primary physician, and Lord and below, he's on vacation. Well, this was very important to me, and I know that I've always heard that you have to act quickly.
That's
If
right.
there is something, you have to act quickly. So I just told him, I said, listen, I don't care who I see, nurse practitioner, somebody. I need to see someone today, because I need to have a mammogram. So I went in and I saw the nurse practitioner. She did feel the lump on my breast, and she referred me over to get a mammogram. With that mammogram, came a lot of tests afterwards.
Yeah, a lot of tests.
I had to have 2 mammograms, a biopsy, and within the biopsy, the day I had the biopsy, they told me, well, we'll call you within in a couple of days. And the process is we'll have you come in regardless of the situation. A couple of days later, I'm at work, I'm going into a meeting, I get a phone call. Hello? Is this Tahisha Harrison? Yes, it is. This is Dr. So-and-so. I'm calling with your results from your mammogram. Do you have a moment? I said, sure. Hold on 1 second because I needed to get into a quiet spot. Me going into my quiet place thinking, oh, this is great news. This must be in my favor because he's going to give me these results over the phone. Needless to say, that call changed my life because this doctor said, Tahisha, you have breast cancer. Breast cancer? Wait a minute. What did you just say? He said, you have breast cancer. They also tested my lymph nodes during that biopsy. There were no cancer cells found in my lymph node, which was a blessing. Here, I immediately called Stavian in tears, canceled my meetings. I called Stavian and told him, I was like, Stavian, I just hung up the phone talking to the doctor, and I have breast cancer. And he said, I'll meet you at home.
Yeah, for me, I knew right then that I couldn't let her be in that moment by herself. I had to stop what I was doing and just get there. I had to be there. I had to be there for her. And at that moment, it was most important that I met her there at the home. And when I got home, she had just got there as well. And there was a lot going through my mind, racing through my mind on the way home, and just thinking about my wife, my best friend.
We shedded some tears together, and more importantly, we started to pray.
That's right.
Stavian started making phone calls. I started making phone calls, trying to figure out our next steps. The doctor I had spoken with that day told me that my doctor would call me. And I'm not one to wait around and see what the next person's going to do. I called my doctor's office and tried to schedule an appointment. They told me, well, we can't see you till, it was like 3 or 4 days out.
And I said, oh no, that's not going to happen. I immediately called back to the doctor's office, explained who I was, and the importance that we saw our doctor that day. And they were able to get us fit in later that evening. And so we headed right over to the doctor's office just before closing.
As we walked into the doctor's office, my friend met me there. And before we sat down, my doctor said to me, he said, Miss Harrison, before you sit down, I have one question to ask.
That's right.
And his question was, how strong is your faith? That really touched me. And I thought for a second, and I was like, that's all I have to stand on. Those were strong. That was a strong question. How strong is your faith? And my response, that's all I have to stand on.
That's all.
And that is what I have stood on throughout this whole journey. I started going over to Duke. I had CAT scans, PET scans, bone scans.
All the scans.
Biopsies all over again. And I started rounds of chemo. I went through about 8 rounds of one chemo and 8 rounds of another chemo. I lost all my hair, but that didn't care. I didn't even care about that because I was standing on my faith.
That's right.
And the will of God. The end of the year, 2015, the end of 2015, I had a lumpectomy. 2016 rolled in. I had radiation.
Mm-hmm.
I worked the whole time.
Whole time. At work and at home. Taking care of the kids, taking care of Big Daddy, the whole nine. Just never stop.
Never stopped. Because I knew that God was with me.
Mm-hmm.
I knew my mother, an angel, was praying for me and looking out for me.
That's right.
I would walk into the office. People would say, wow, you are really an inspiration to me. Because I felt like I'm that person, if something's going on with me, everybody don't have to know.
Mm-hmm.
Beauty is what you make it.
That's right.
And cancer was not taking over my life.
That's right.
I was going to kick cancer's butt. And that's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
2017 rolls around. I went in for just a routine checkup with my doctor. And the questions were asked, have you fallen? Any shortness of breaths? And I said, yeah, I have shortness of breath sometimes, but I'm out of shape. She says, well, Tahisha, let's just go and do a chest x-ray just to make sure that that's it. Did the chest x-ray and come to find out I had a nodule on my lung. Mm-hmm. The nodule on my lung turned out to be cancerous. Mm-hmm. So here I am again, 2.5 years later, being faced with triple negative metastasis breast cancer. Mm-hmm. But I'm still here.
Amen.
Here goes the rounds of chemo again. And whatever else I'm faced with. I just felt like the enemy was coming at me. Mm-hmm. But God was giving me the will to fight. Mm-hmm. He gave me that armor. I put on my warrior suit. And God has given me the ability to fight. Mm-hmm. We did a round of chemo, and that chemo wiped out my white blood cells. Mm-hmm. The next time I was scheduled for chemo, the nurse comes out. She says, well, your white blood count is down. You can't get chemo today. Just wait for the doctor to call you back. And after those blood counts were low, Stevie and I, we had decided that we needed to possibly look at different avenues, get second opinions, versus waiting on the doctor to call us. And Stevie had just read an article.
Yeah, I had read this article on Facebook, and it was really interesting. It was about a young lady who was born over in Seattle, and come from a very affluent family, and she was African American, and her family was in the medical profession, and she decided that she wanted to go into the medical profession, but she wanted to kind of, in a way, give back. She wanted to help people, the poor population, with helping to understand the health disparities and how come African Americans receive treatment differently sometimes in the healthcare system. And so she went off to school. She went to med school. She was working for the CDC, and all of a sudden she was pregnant, and she was doing a lot of great work in the CDC. She was down in the Atlanta area. And one day she noticed that she was having some health issues. And some of her research had led her to see that a lot of times the health disparities in our community actually comes before you're even born. You know, if your parents are poor and they don't always have access to great health in the prenatal phase, then a lot of times before you're even born, your body is missing some things that it needs. So it puts you kind of behind the 8 ball. And what this article was showing, and some of her later research showed, that's where it starts for a lot of us. So you start already behind in some of this health care. And then the research showed that as you continue to grow, you know, if you don't get the good jobs because you didn't have the best education, then sometimes your health benefits are less than some of our counterparts. And with that, so now you're going through life in your 20s and your 30s, and you're not seeking the medical attention that's needed, and you're not getting the care that's needed there. So the most important thing I took from that article and that story was how we have to take ownership of our lives. We have to be in control and our own advocates for our health. And we have to let the providers know that we're here to advocate on our behalf, and we're going to ask a lot of questions. And it's nothing against you. It's just we want to make sure that we are getting the right care and the best care. We want to make sure that we're partnered with you to get the best results.
And as we're waiting on my main oncologist to call, we decided to go and get second and third opinions.
That's right.
We reached out to a local hospital here in the area to get a second opinion. And we had met a young lady, and we had been looking at all these commercials on TV, Cancer Treatment Center of America. So Stavian decided to call Cancer Treatment Center of America. And Lord and behold, they told us that they were going to fly us down there, look at our case, and they just wanted us to come visit.
Yep.
That following week, we had airline tickets, were emailed to us, hotel accommodations were set up, and we traveled to Georgia.
They picked me up in a limousine.
They rolled out the red carpet. I looked at Stavian with the limousine driver. I said, Stavian, are we supposed to tip the limousine driver? I talked to the limousine driver. I was like, well, let me, here's your tip. He said, no, my tip is for you to get healthy.
That touched
And
us.
that just touched us because it showed me right then that the spirit was at CTCA. And there were just signs. That's where I needed to be. As we did the tour the next day, they took us to the chapel. They took us to the cafeteria. We met the different oncologists. And I could just feel the spirit.
Yep.
I thought to myself, how in the world am I going to live in Durham, North Carolina, and come back and forth to Georgia for treatment? So how strong was my faith? Thinking about my kids and just going back and forth, what this journey was about to do for all of our lives. Going back and forth to Georgia, letting my doctors know here that, hey, I'm seeking treatment elsewhere. I'm taking control of my health.
Your own advocate.
Our first initial visit, the start of chemo. I started Gemsar, and Gemsar was not, it was supposed to attack my white blood cells, but it really attacked my white blood cells. In order to get chemo, my white blood cells had to be at a 2.5. My white blood cells trended after that first round of chemo, 2.3. The doctors, they were trying to figure out what was going on with my white blood cells. Neutrophil levels were very low. Neutrophil levels had to be at a 1. Mine were at a 0.6, a 0.5. And I'm thinking, if I can't get chemo, this stuff is growing in my body. I have kids.
That's right.
I have a husband. I have a family that counts on me. TC, you got to put on some boxing gloves and you got to fight. God has given me the armor and the faith, and I got to keep fighting. At CTCA, they also partner with natural medicine. I had met with naturopathic. They had given me so many natural vitamins, regimens to take. And my counts were still not going up to where they needed to be. So my oncologist says, okay, we're going to change your treatment regimen. I started a new treatment regimen. Here we go again, these white blood counts. The enemy is still trying to get at me with these white blood counts. My oncologist had tried a couple of things. We did IVIG. The IVIG treatment would boost them, but they just were not holding. My white blood counts would not hold. My oncologist told me, well, we can do a steroid treatment. And I told him initially, no steroid treatments. I feel like the steroids were a impact impacted my mother's life. I was not doing steroids.
Yeah, she was not doing it. She made it very clear to the doctor that she was not interested in steroids at all. In fact, the doctor heard her so clear that he never even brought it back up again. But this is, I think, wife, this is one of those parts where our faith was tested and where we had to be strong. You know, and so during this whole period, this whole summertime frame, 3 or 4 months from May to now, you know, we had to go into prayer. So yeah, so for us it was really important to understand how our faith played that part. And no negative talk, no negative self-talk. We had to make sure that we was only putting positive stuff in. And you know, this is a great part for me to stop and just pause for a second and say, hey, listen, you know, no negative talk from us on the inside, but no negative talk from you on the outside. If you were our friends, our family, our co-workers, and you had that negative talk and I'm sorry about this and blah, 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 I hope you understand we had to cut you off because we couldn't allow that negative talk to come inside and to interrupt what this is, what God has for us, the faith, the power, the anointing on our life had to be real. So it wasn't about you. It was about us, what we had to do. So that's where we were with the negative talk, and we just couldn't allow it.
From May to August, we felt like we had some decisions to make. I had looked back and I had prayed over my treatment plan, and I thought about it. I said, okay, so Tahisha, you're being scared of these steroids.
That's right.
But if you think back, when you first started, you had a sinus infection. You were on a low dose of steroid. Then my port area had broke out, so they put me on another low dose of steroids. You sitting up here being scared for no reason. Faith and prayer don't incorporate with scared.
Fear.
That Sunday, we went to church, and I was praying, and I'll never forget, my girl, she sung this song, Jesus Will. The Spirit moved in me. That week, I went back to CTCA,
That's right.
and I said, I told my oncologist, put me on them steroids. Let's see what they gonna do.
That's right.
I'm not scared anymore. I done prayed. I done thought about it. Let's do this. Let's do a steroid regimen. And in talking to him, he knew what my fear was. So we talked about it. We did a steroid regimen. Within 3 days,
3 days.
Jesus will.
Jesus will.
He turned it around. My white blood count had went up to a 0.5. That next week, I went back to CTCA. I got treatment. That following week, after treatment, my white blood count was at a 10. Jesus will.
Jesus will. He'll fight your battle.
If you just be still. I stood on my faith
That's right.
and the word of God. That's all I knew.
And the reason we want to share this with everybody is because for a couple of reasons. One is someone else that you know, or you may be going through it, something right now, and you need to understand that Jesus will. You need to understand that your faith is all that you need. You need to understand that you can't be in the back of your head talking negative and letting negative vibes creep in.
Because
Positive
the
vibes
enemy
only.
will always try to step in. And you have to stand on your faith.
You have to stay strong in your faith. You have to stay with your word. You have to block out some sounds. You have to block out some noises. And you have to block out some people. And it's okay. And it's okay. You just have to, you will owe it to yourself to hear God and to hear his will. You have to sometimes find that small space. You have to find that private area where you can just be one with the Lord and allow him to do what he said he will do. And that's where we found ourselves. This summer was rough. It was always something going on, and we weren't getting the treatments, and
And let me say this summer was rough because we didn't get the treatments. But I truly believe that God wanted it to be that way.
That's right.
God wanted me and Stavian to spend the summer with our kids.
That's right.
He gave my nodule an opportunity to grow a little, so that the nodule could be biopsied. So my next steps are a few rounds of Taxol, 2 more rounds of Taxol,
Which is the treatment.
which is the chemotherapy, and after that, actually, I'm due to have a biopsy of the nodule next week, and they're gonna look at doing immune therapy. Because being triple negative breast cancer metastasis, the doctors have told me I'll be on some type of regimen the rest of my life. Which sounds, the rest of your life. Yes, if I want to have a life. Because triple negative breast cancer can sneak up anywhere.
Yeah.
And it'll come back. But with me being on a regimen, it's more of a preventive measure. And like I said, I'm a mother.
That's right.
I'm a wife,
A wife.
and I'm a sister, and a daughter. So I have to be here so I can be that good wife.
That's right.
Be that good mother.
Tell 'em, babe.
You know, so I'm up for the fight.
That's right. We up for the fight.
We up for the fight.
Ain't no we up for the fight.
That's right.
We in this together.
We
and
in
we
it
hope
together.
hopefully we're encouraging somebody else that may not have the support system you need. It may not be your spouse. It may be a brother. It may be a sister. It may be a cousin, a neighbor, a church member, your prayer partners, anybody. But just know that it's not you alone. You're not going through it alone. We in this together.
Because 1 out of 8 women are diagnosed with breast cancer every day.
Every day. Think about that for a second. 1 out of 8 women are diagnosed with breast cancer every day. Those numbers should alarm you.
Know your body, ladies. Do your self-check exams. At the age of 40, you're supposed to have a mammogram. I know that with insurance policies, things are changing. Fight for your rights.
Advocate for yourself.
Get your breast exams. If there's breast cancer in your family, you are able to get a mammogram at the age of 35. Advocate for yourself. Early detection is the best detection. I am beautiful. Webster defines beauty as giving pleasure to the mind or senses. The Urban Dictionary says beautiful is a woman who has distinctive personality, one who can laugh at anything, including themselves, who is especially kind and caring to others. She is a woman who, above all else, knows the value of having fun and not taking life too seriously. She is a woman that you can trust and count on to brighten your day. She is a woman who can make you feel real good just by being herself. I define it as an inner strength that is given by God to endure life's ups and downs, that provides strength that keeps you going and presents courage when you need it the most. It's a feeling that only you can feel deep in your soul, which only defines your inner self as a person. Some look in the mirror and say, I am beautiful, but some look in the mirror and can't see the beauty they hold. We are all beautiful. It just depends on who and how we hold our mirror.